Good afternoon. We're very lucky this afternoon to be talking to a professional analyst from London. We've had some requests on our emailing list about let us know what's happening in Iran, especially from Australia. So we decided to do a special show today, and we have a special guest on our show. We have Babak Emamian, who is all the way from London, who's a chairman of the British Iranian Business Association and a TV news analyst in economy and politics. So we're going to be talking everything Iran today, how it started, where it will hopefully end in a good way, and a lot more in the middle. So good afternoon, Babak.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you on all the way from London and giving us your time and your expertise. So the name of the mission is called Epic Fury. Now, skeptics are saying, why did Trump begin this war suddenly on a weekend? Some are saying that he wouldn't have got enough public approval from the American people, and it wasn't sold as well as, say, the Iraq War. So let's begin there. Let's begin there. The sudden war. Was it sudden, or has it been brewing up for a while?
Well, first of all, I don't buy any of that a decision maker would reflect on everything. A good decision maker makes decision because he or she thinks that's the right thing to do. So this idea that you weigh up everything, you weigh up what the public opinion is saying or what is so and so. You look what is the right thing to do immediately, regardless of date or time, and you go for it. According to all accounts, this was an unusual time because the leadership in Iran were not expecting an attack, so they had a meeting, and it was a great time to attack them, to destroy them, and that's what happened, nothing more. So this idea, oh, they planned it on a weekend. How could they plan this on a weekend and get the leadership to turn up on a weekend for a meeting among themselves? No, it doesn't work like that. They just had information that there were going to be a meeting. It was a good time to attack, and they attacked. And once you attack, you have to continue with that. So I hope that explains things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. There's also been, let's begin with all the negative criticism first. Let's get all that out of the way. So there's criticism also about Trump trying to fight the Houthis in Yemen, and it only lasted 2 weeks when he realized that he couldn't keep going. He was losing a lot of his troops, and things weren't going to plan, and it only lasted 2 weeks. So could this be similar to what happened to the Houthis with the Houthis? Because I think a lot of the attacks that the Iranians are doing now also were not expected. So they're attacking civilian now locations in Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi, Jordan, and they're even going into Cyprus now, and that's sort of Europe now, civilian and American military bases. So that definitely wasn't expected by the Americans. You saying that they need to keep going? Would anything change their mind?
Well, US, I mean, to underestimate US or to say US could not keep up with Houthis is ludicrous. They defeated the Nazi Germany. They have mass military industrial complexes. They could go on forever and ever and ever. And imagine Houthis or the Iran regime could ever challenge them is ridiculous. It's the other way around. It's the cat playing with the mouse. And a lot of people, they don't want to see that. If you look at it, the Iranian propaganda, it started first, they said we have 800 ballistic missiles. And they were putting this out before the war, and they were saying we could knock out the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, which was ridiculous. So nobody bought that. Then they said we will attack the neighboring countries, which they said, okay, fine, attack the neighboring countries. That's not going to stop us. You want to attack them? Attack them. That is not going to stop our agenda. Then they went on saying Trump is unpopular in US and the Congress is against him. They would stop this war if they start, which it doesn't work like that. Trump doesn't need the Congress. He doesn't need the Congress at all. And we've seen that in the last 14 months. And then they came up about the oil prices. The oil prices will shoot up to $200, which is not going to do that. So that is not going. And the last, they came up, we have secret nuclear weapons. And with that, we're going to use it on Israel. And I heard that 2 Fridays ago. And I thought, wow, I mean, this must be a very desperate regime. And you think, why do you need to say all that instead of just negotiate? What is wrong with you? Just negotiate and become a normal regime. But no, because these are not normal people. They have problems. They have mental problems. And we would have mental problems if we don't accept that reality, that we are dealing with mad people. So that's what I was trying to make. Actually, it's our fault trying to imagine they are normal people. That shows we are not normal if we think they are normal.
Okay, so there's no comparison to be made between what's happening now and what happened to Iraq in 2003, the Iraq war. There's weapons of mass destruction, and then, as we all know, there wasn't any weapons of mass destruction. Is it similar to what happened in Iraq, where we're saying there's a nuclear program happening in Iran, a ballistic program also? Let's go in there and stop all that. And then what happens if there isn't anything? It's another bluff.
Well, sure. So let's take the last one, ballistic program. We know it is there. You said they've already gone as far as Europe, which is Cyprus is in Europe. And they were planning to go as far as 12,000 kilometers. Right now, they range about 3,000, maybe just off 5,000 kilometers. They were going to go to 12,000 kilometers. So the ballistic missile was there. The nuclear program has always been there. It's on, and we know, and they have now accepted they have 460 kilograms of enriched uranium, which they said they could convert it easily into 12 nuclear bombs. So you would say a regime, a country which is now 80% in poverty, why would they spend so much money on a nuclear program? And a country that nobody else is threatening them, why would they have missile programs? Instead of, there is no water in Iran right now. There's no electricity. Instead of building infrastructure and have a proper economy, they would go on threatening neighbors and supporting militias in other countries, exporting their revolution, as far as Venezuela. So, then I go back to what I said. It is our shortcomings if we keep saying, oh, these are normal people. They are not normal people.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So you lived in Iran?
I was born in Iran, yes.
Born in Iran, and how long did you? I've never been to Iran. I know two people in my life that have been to Iran. They've said similar comment. The most intelligent people in the world, the nicest people in the world, and it's a misunderstood place. It's not what everyone thinks it is. Because we all see Iran on Western media as, everyone's wearing the burqa, everyone's getting whipped in the street and tortured and all that sort of stuff. So give us a little bit for our Western audience. Give us a little bit of life in Iran when you were growing up in Iran, and obviously, the good stuff and the bad stuff, because we need to have a balanced idea of what we're dealing with here. Because some people are saying it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is.
Well, Iran is an ancient country. It's about 2,500 years now since Cyrus the Great established it. In that 2,500 years, it has been invaded 6 times. It had to change its religion 6 times. But during all that time, it kept its borders, it kept its culture, and it kept its language. So they've achieved that. But now and then they go through ups and downs. These are one of those downs in Persian history where there is a theocracy, and the theocracy started in 1979. And it was one of those unexpected things that happened, like the financial crash 2008. It was unexpected. This one was unexpected. Nobody thought when country had gone through 60 years of double-digit growth in economy and modernization, and there was this prosperous middle class, suddenly they would turn on the very people who had gifted this. But people go through these cycles. They make mistakes, they come. There was a big mistake in 1979, and they trusted the theologians. And this is and it's like 1930s Germany. They made a mistake by accepting the Nazis as a form of regime. What I'm trying to say is now and then certain countries have to go through bad regimes. So the other countries would not do that. Like with Germany, the Nazis, nobody would want to follow fascism. With Soviet Union and Russia, nobody wants to become communist. With Iran, it's about theocracy. It just proves that theocracy doesn't work. Secularism is the way forward. And more importantly, the biggest thing secularism does is protects religion from its own destruction. Secularism is a gift to religion. And the religious people don't understand that. Because now in Iran, nobody wants to be this religion, this Islam religion in Iran. Everyone has rejected it. So unfortunately, the Iranian people had to pay that price for other nations not to follow the mistakes of Iranians.
Yeah. So the religion in Iran at the moment is the Shia type of Islam. So it's not the common one or the known one in the other parts of the world, just to make that clear. So the religion practiced in Iran, most people don't follow it anymore. Is that a majority?
First of all, Iranians were converted to Islam 1400 years ago, but they had issue with Islam. So they invented their own version of Islam, as you say, which is this type of Shiism. And even they had problems with that. And the other Muslims had problems with it because they said, this is not a form of the Islam that we want. You created something which is not what we want to do. So the other 90% Muslims had always issue with this type of Islam. But we don't want to go into that. What I
is would there be a fear? Would there be a fear of a Shia-Sunni war coming up then between the people inside the countries or around in the region? Because the killing the main leader Khomeini is a big deal, isn't it? It's quite
no, it's not.
It's not a big deal
at all.
Okay.
At all. I mean, who are Shias? Shias are mainly Persians who hate this God. Then there are some Shias in Pakistan who cares about them, really, and some in India who cares about them.
Okay.
If Shiism was any good, people would convert them more, but nobody has. And the only reason Iran is a Shia is because they wanted the rejection of the other form of Islam. They wanted to have their own form of Islam, which was mainly a military doctrine. If you look at it, I mean, what religion wants to develop nuclear weapons or missile programs? That's what this type of Shia is.
So there's a lot of praise for the commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, because he's been in office a very short time, and he's had 15 affairs already with starting and finishing wars. So a lot of people are on his side this time. A lot of people are also blaming Biden for what happened in the troops leaving Afghanistan. A lot of people are saying that if that didn't happen, then Ukraine wouldn't have been invaded also. So I think this war, in my humble opinion, it will probably go on for a long time. How long do you think it will last for?
Few weeks.
Oh, a few weeks. Some people are saying the Iranian New Year or something in end of March.
Don't trust these analysts. I mean, these are whichever analysts. They were saying this. I mean, we've been hearing every time when they assassinated Qasem Soleimani, they said there will be like chaos in the Middle East. Nothing happened. The 12-day war, they said there'll be chaos. Nothing happened. Now they say this will go on forever. No, why should they have nothing? What they have? There is at the moment there is no decision making in Iran. Nobody knows who's making decisions in Iran.
Yeah.
So why should this go on?
Who are the people supporting the regime then? You say that most people don't support the regime. A high percentage don't support it. Who are the ones that we see on the screen footage crying, mourning? I think about 30,000. Was that right? 30,000 protesters were killed a couple of weeks ago. So who's doing all this and who's supporting all this? If everyone's against the regime, who's supporting them inside
Idiots
the
and
country?
superstitious. people who are idiots and superstitious. We've had in Iran problem with superstitious problems, with
Okay.
superstitious people. We have a problem in Iran. It's about
Yep.
10% of the population are superstitious, and regardless of what religion, they've always been like that, and we've always had that problem. And we have, as rulers in Iran, they've always been oppressed that 10%. But this is the only time that they've been freed, and what the Islamic Republic has done is brought them up into, actually put them in charge of the country. So these are the superstitious broke people. They're not even religious. They believe in, I don't know, things that you and I find ridiculous, but they believe in it.
Wow, interesting. So you're saying that Congress can't get involved and can't interfere, but Congress did have a big sitting the last couple of days, the House and the Senate. There's a huge vote happening. If I know they can't, I mean, officially they should be able to decide if war should happen or not. But if the vote goes against Trump, what will happen then? Can something be slowed down? Can this effort, the war effort, slow down?
I think there is enough emergency acts for the president to take. It's like the tariffs. I mean, the tariffs when there was other forms he could have done it. And I cannot see the Congress going against him. What is in it for them to go against him? We are fighting a fascist theocracy and a regime that has killed so many Americans. Imagine you voting against president of US and in support of this regime that has killed so many Americans. I just want to know who would be voting for that. But there are crazy people in also and idiots in the Congress that would do that.
Okay. So you're in London, England. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. So Keir Starmer's getting criticized at the moment by Trump and other Western leaders for his reluctance to join the war. Nothing like Tony Blair back 23 years ago. He was, really ready to go and aid George Bush and the American administration. So what's happening with Keir Starmer on your end?
Well, again, Keir Starmer is a weak prime minister, and he, keep changing his mind and U-turns. And this was another U-turn. That's why he probably will not be in office for more than 6 months, maximum a year. It already, he's been disaster on everything, and he's not a natural leader. So that's it. But you keep bringing up Iraq. I just want to make a couple of things clear about Iraq. Now, Iraq was it was totally mishandled. Now, the reason why it was mishandled, because, and it took the US a long time to learn that the US Army, the US military, it is not an occupational army. It is not a colonial army. Wherever they are a great fighting force, they can defeat any army right now with what they have. But once they defeat that army, they have to act as an occupation army, or they have to act as a colonial army. They do not have that expertise because, first of all, it's not in their culture to be a colonial power. And also the way the system is structured. For example, the US Treasury would not allow, because, for a colonial army or an occupational army, you read through that history, as soon as they invade a country or win at a battlefield, they absorb the opposing military into their ranks, into their system. And sometimes they put them in charge of the area that they have just occupied. For that, there has to be a payment system. There have to be a system. They become part of the existing structure of them. The British have that, and the British are expert at that. But the Americans, culturally, they don't have it. Psychologically, they're not ready for it. And then this payment system, the Treasury would not allow any dollars to be paid to non-Americans. So there's that issue also. And I give you an example in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, for example, to supply fuels to the American forces, it had to come from Athens. Because why? Because from Greece, because they had US production in Greece. So you had to travel all the way, come to Afghanistan, where they could have actually had production. They could have had oil and gas production in Afghanistan. And they could have had the locals involved. And that would have been much better because you would have absorbed the local economy into you. You would have the locals involved with you. But no, the Treasury wouldn't allow that. Another thing on lorry drivers. The lorry drivers had to be American, so they were constantly attacked. Only later on, when they changed the lorry drivers to the Afghanis driver, that they stopped being attacked. So what I'm trying to say is, it's just things simple as that it didn't work. And also a few other things, like the CIA was making decisions instead of the military making decisions. So there's always that conflict. And now if you look at the Ukraine war, the US military does not rely on CIA to give them information. They have their own intelligence about Ukraine. So there's always these things that nobody discusses it when it comes to Iraq. Okay, we made a mistake, but what lessons we've learned? We just say, oh, it was a mistake, it was a mistake.
So what's the outcome? Say the regime falls. What happens then? Do we look at things like the Abraham Accords, more peace in the region, stability? What happens when the regime falls, if it does fall?
Well, there's two things. One, Iran as a country, one, the region. First of all, it will be fantastic for the region because Iran is a source of tension. When this regime is not there, then there will be less tension in the region, and the region would flourish. Already, the region is doing well economically. Some countries are doing extremely well. All the countries would do much better because the cost of business would drop. Also, the investment would increase in the region. The region would flourish. So the small cost that the region is paying now for this war, they would be compensated by a lot more by the rewards that will come. For the country itself, it would go through a couple of changes. It's like a new regime would be like a startup, a business startup. Most startups, they fail within 3 months or maximum 3 years. There will be a couple of failures in the regime till eventually within 3 or 4 years, a regime that knows what to do will come up. So I would say the first layer, I would be surprised if they become successful. It could happen. Anything could happen. But
It doesn't happen in history. I mean, even Napoleon, after the French Revolution, it took Napoleon to come and take over because I think the Revolutionary Guard back then didn't know what they were doing. I think it was like 3-4 months of complete chaos and mess. So what would be the new Iran? What would it look like? We always say about, let's go in there and give them democracy and all that sort of stuff. Is that possible? I mean, political systems take generations to work. You can't convert a monarchy into communist overnight. People have tried, it doesn't work. Especially conservative countries, it's an organic process to change a political system, to get people used to something different. It's easy to say, let's turn something into a democracy, but the people aren't used to democracies in certain countries. If you give them too much freedom, everybody wants a decision, and they all go, in different ways, and it becomes chaos. So, what political system or what system would work in a country like Iran if the regime does fall?
First of all, I totally agree with you on that. Sometimes things have to take their own natural course. You cannot shorten it. For example, in Britain, the feudal system start breaking up in 1301 with the Black Plague.
And even in the States, if you look at the initiation of America, it definitely wasn't a democracy when it began. People were getting $1 a day, people were getting killed on the train tracks, building the railways. It definitely was not a fair democracy when it began. Could be now sort of a fair democracy, but definitely wasn't back then. So the initiation of any new system takes a long time.
So for example, in Europe, the middle class, as we know it took 600 years to come. The feudal system started breaking up in 1341. That's when they say the official date. And then we have some. In Iran, the feudal system, actually the previous dynasty, the Pahlavi dynasty, they actually broke it up. It didn't break up. They broke it up, the feudal system, in 1920. And I have to give it to the Persian kings, the Pahlavi dynasty, the father and son. They were dedicated to creating a middle class based on Western values and Western economic models. And they did it. They really believed in it. I mean, every day they got up doing that. And it worked for 60 years. But not all Persians, not all Iranians could keep up with changes. So in 1979, there was some backlash, and also this cleric, Khomeini, said, I can deliver it much better than what they've done. I'm not going to do anything. But as soon as he came, he took the country back to medieval time and reinstalled the feudal system. And also this time it was a kind of a religious feudal system. So we've had 47 of feudal system. So going back to your question, a lot of Iranians in Iran, when I speak to them, they are confused because for 60 years they experienced the middle class, Western type of middle class values and economic model, and they prospered. And then they thought they would get something better, and they didn't. And now they just don't know what they want. So we go back to what you say. You're right. Sometimes you cannot give people a menu. You've got to tell them that's what you're having for lunch today. And right now, I think that's it. So in Iran, right now, if you were the president of Iran and I was your advisor, I would, in terms of, first of all, fixing the economy, because you're dealing with 40% inflation and 5% devaluation per month, 5% devaluation of currency. So I would say get rid of the currency, replace it with US dollars. The central bank, put an American in charge and put it under supervision of Federal Reserve for 5 years at least. Maybe have a new Iranian currency in 5 or 10 years' time. And secondly, go on kind of large-scale joint ventures, because with people in the Middle East and Persians, I would say, I don't want to say about others, the people in the Middle East are extremely hardworking and they're extremely well-educated. They're very educated. They're knowledgeable, 3,000 years of different cultures. But when it comes to management and strategic planning, they have a weakness. That's why we need European countries and Western countries, to come do joint venture with us. So they bring in their discipline, their managerial skills, and their strategical planning. Without them, I mean, I'm talking about, in my opinion, that is, projects would not succeed in the Middle East. And if you look at the Southern Gulf states, they are master of that, joint ventures with Western countries. And they have succeeded. They know that fact. They have no ego about it. They've done it. So that's another thing. As you, as the next president of Iran, that's what you have to sell to your people, to the people. You have to say, we need these people. We even need for them, even our central bank has to be joint venture right now.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because I always speak about this to a lot of friends of mine. When regime change happens or systems change, they usually become very insular and very too patriotic for the new way. And then they're like, no, we don't want any more interference from anyone, even though they don't know what they're doing. They just have this notion of we don't want interference from anyone, and they just do it all themselves, and they make so many mistakes, and it takes years and generations to fix. And that's something commendable for the UAE and Saudi and all those countries. They had no idea what they were doing when they inherited all this oil, and they admitted that, and they weren't proud in saying that they needed help, and they got help, and they paid for the help, and from all countries, from Egypt, they got help from Egypt, and England and all sorts of things began to come in, and that's why they're prospering now. But let's talk about the Iranian people. What are they going to agree to? They always say, leave us alone. We know what we want. We know what we're going to do. What are they going to go for? Are they going to go for, things like what you're saying, cross collaboration and integration of the West, or are they going to say no, Iran, the old Iran, or some sort of patriotic version, um, what are they going to go for?
Well, then it comes down again to you as the next president of Iran. I would be as your advisor. I would say you have to repackage it under ultra nationalism, not just nationalism, ultra nationalism. You say this is Persian ultra nationalism, and this is what ultra Persian nationalism is. And you talk about it was a large empire, it worked with all nations, and that's what we have to do again. And you go totally against that religious this
If you're
regime.
talking about the Persian, if you look at Persian history, if you go back to the 800s and the 900s, it was the Persians and some of the Arabs that were actually teaching the Westerners, by the way. Back then, you're talking about the Dark Ages. So the Persians brought Europe back to the light, by the way, 8, 900. There were Persians living in Italy and Spain, and it was the Normans who came and visited the Persians, went and saw, wow, how are these guys living? They learned for 80 years, they learned a lot of things from the Persians, and then brought it back to France. There wasn't even France back then, and in England, and that's how, in my opinion, through a lot of many years of research, how the Europe came back. So Europe really came back from 950, 1000. If you look at 400 to 900 or 1000 AD, there wasn't much going on. And a lot of things that began were, 1100, 1200, even things, places like Italy and France. It all began around that time. So Persia did have a big role back then, and we're hoping that it has a bigger role even now. Thank you so much for your time, Babak. I really enjoyed this, and let's do it again. If we can do it again soon, based on what's going to happen. So we're hoping for the best for everyone. We're hoping for a safe, a couple of weeks. I know it's hard to say that because there are things happening in the region, but not as bad as maybe things people think they are. So there's a lot of people worried about flying. I'm in Cairo at the moment. There's absolutely nothing happening here. It's completely safe here. The airspace is working here. And we've been told by the embassy not to worry, not to cancel any flights until you're advised. So let's thank our guest, Babak Emamian, all the way from London. And we're going to have him again soon because he's a fantastic guest and very knowledgeable about the Iran war. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Hashem's podcast this afternoon. We'll see you soon. Bye.